diinfokan kembali kepada mahasiswa, diminta bantuannya untuk meninggalkan room 2 terlebih dahulu dan bisa kembali lagi dalam waktu 5 menit ya. Mohon meninggalkan dulu agar presenter bisa masuk. Jadi kita bisa mulai.
Bisa yang gue nggak bisa masak ini. Sorry, Miss. I think the audio is not functional.
Ya, itu kompronya Puji. Oke, Okay, please apologize for the technical problem from Bu Puji. So I think I'm going to take over the moderating. Bapak and Ibu, I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, so yeah, in this room we have uh, seven speakers, eight speakers, sorry. So I'm going to check for the uh, availability first. If Ibu Dr. Zulia Karini already here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you'll be the first presenter ya Ibu.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the second one is Ibu Puji. And the third will be Alia and Ananta and Alia, Ananta, and only two Alia and Ananta. The third will be me and Dwi Rahayu. The fourth is Siti Safinatul Askiyah. Are you already here?
Yes,
Siti's. Okay. The next turn will be Pak Akbar Kurtubi. Are you ready? All right. The seventh speaker will not present today to like some reasons. So we're going to skip it to number 8. Will be like Anggi Nuke Naisa. Are you here? Anggi Nuke Naisha.
Yes.
Yes, Miss.
All right. So yes, we're going to start with our first speaker ya, Ibu Dr. Zulia Karini M. Hum from Universitas Amikom Purwokerto with the article entitled Translating Dear Informal and Informal Letters, a Study of Students' Awareness of Register and Context. Okay, Bu Zulia Karini, the screen is yours. Do you want to share your PPT yourself?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will share my article by myself in here from here. Let me do it now. Thank you.
Okay, Ibu, and all presenters, you have 7 minutes to present, and then we're going to spend about 2-3 minutes for question and answer. Okay.
Give me 1 second. But I think I have a problem to share the article. Or could you please help me to share my presentations? Oh, no, sorry. I found this button. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Everyone, can you see the slide, my PowerPoint slide?
Okay, we can see it, Ibu.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zulia Karini. I'm from Universitas Amikom Purwokerto, and today I would like to present my research, my article, and this is give me 1 second. Yeah. So this is the title of my paper, Translating Dear Informal and Informal Letters, a study of students' awareness of register and context. So the study focused on a very simple but important expressions in English correspondence, namely the salutations or the greeting dear. I'm sure that you are familiar with these salutations, with these greetings when you are doing the correspondence with someone in English. I'm sure that you use these salutations dear, and it's look easy to translate, but in fact the findings show that the students often face difficulties when they have to translate this salutation into Indonesian in different contexts. And let me show the background of my research. So in English letters correspondence, the word dear is commonly used as an opening salutations. So you open your letter by or using this word dear, and it appears in both informal and formal letters. So for example, you start your letter by saying dear Jimin. This is in a personal letter, and dear Mrs. Jones in a formal business letter, for example. However, in Indonesian, the translation of dear cannot always be the same. The translator needs to consider the relationship between the writer and the recipient, and the purpose of the letters and the level of formality. For example, dear Jimin, may be translated more naturally as Hi Jimin or Halo Jimin or Jimin tersayang, depending on the tone. Depending on the tone of the letter. Meanwhile, dear Mrs. Jones, in a formal context, is more appropriately translated as YTH Ibu Jones or Yang Terhormat Ibu Jones. So this study start from this idea that translating routine expressions like dear is not only about lexical meanings but also about context and register. And the main problem addressed in this study is that many students tend to translate the same English expression in the same way, even when the context changes. In this case, the word dear becomes a useful example because it has different functions depending on the situations. So, for example, in informal letters, for example, to your friends, it may express closeness or friendliness. And in formal letters, like doing the business letter, it functions as a respectful salutations, respectful greetings. Therefore, the study asks, how do students translate dear in formal and informal letter context? And more importantly, to what extent do their translation show awareness of register and context? Okay, and then this is the my research questions, and the objective of this study. First, this study aims to identify the translation choices used by students when translating dear in an informal letter and a formal letter. And second, it aims to categorize the translations based on appropriateness, literalness, register accuracy, and sensitivity to context. And the third, this study aims to show how students translation difficulties reflect broader issues in pragmatic equivalence and target language writing conventions. Or in other words, the study does not only look at whether the translation is correct or incorrect, but also whether it sounds natural or appropriate in Indonesian. And about the methodology, the study used a descriptive qualitative approach supported by single frequency analysis, and the data were collected from my own students, 100 students at Universitas Terbuka. The students were asked so I asked my students to translate 2 short letters, one formal letters and one informal letters from English into Indonesian. And the first letter was informal letters addressed to Jimin, and the second letter was formal business letter addressed to Mrs. Jones. So the study focused on how the students translated the salutation or the greetings dear in both texts. So I focus on the not the letter, but I focus on the salutation or the greeting of dear. So the students' responses were then I analyzed the students' responses and I categorize based on their translation tendencies. And the data show a wide range of translation choices for the informal salutations. Dear Jimin, students use translations such as Hi Jimin or Halo Jimin, untuk Jimin, Jimin tersayang, sayang Jimin, and also YTH Jimin. For the informal salutations, dear Mrs. Jones, many students use more formal expressions such as YTH Ibu Jones, Yang Terhormat Ibu Jones, and kepada Ibu Jones. However, some students also use inappropriate or less natural translations such as Hai Jimin for the formal letter or Nyonya Jones yang tersayang, which sounds too intimate for a business context. And this is the finding in the formal context. Students saw several translation patterns. Some students choose friendly and natural greetings such as Hi Jimin and Hello Jimin. These choices are appropriate, because they match the informal relationship between the writer and the recipient. Other students use affectionate expressions such as Jimin tersayang, or sayang Jimin, or Jimin sayang, or untuk Jimin tersayang. So this translation can also be appropriate if the relationship in the letter is close and personal. However, some students translated Dear Jimin as YTH Jimin, and I think this translation is grammatically acceptable in Indonesian, but it sounds too formal for an informal personal letter. And this indicates that some students may associate dear directly with YTH without considering the context. And this is the findings for formal context. In the formal context, many students translated Dear Mrs. Jones appropriately as YTH Ibu Jones or Yang Terhormat Ibu Jones. And this translation, of course, are suitable because they follow Indonesian formal letter conventions. They also saw that the students understand that business letter require a more respectful and formal language. However, there were also problematic translations. Some students kept the English form such as Dear Miss Jones. Other translated it to literally or to personally. For example, Nyonya Jones yang tersayang or yang terkasih Ibu Jones. So these translations are not suitable for a formal business letter because they create an inappropriate tone in Indonesia. The main pattern found in the data is that many students tended to translate dear in a similar way across both contexts, and this means that they did not always adjust their translation based on the difference between an informal personal letter and a formal business letter. This finding is important because it shows that the difficulty is not only related to vocabulary. The student may know the meaning of dear, but they may not fully understand how each function changes depending on the context. Therefore, the issue here is related to register awareness, pragmatic equivalence, and genre convention.
Okay, sorry for interrupting, Ibu. You still have 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, and the findings suggest that translation salutations require more than finding an equivalent word in the dictionary, and a translator need to ask several questions. Who is writing the letter? Who is receiving it? What is the relationship between them? Is the text formal or informal? What expression would sound natural in the target language? So, for example, dear does not always mean sayang. In a formal letter, it is not an expression of affections, but a polite opening formula. Therefore, the translating Dear Mrs. Jones as Ibu Jones yang tersayang may be semantically close in a literal sense, but pragmatically inappropriate. So this shows that students need to develop sensitivity, not only meaning, but also to communicative functions. Okay. Yeah. Okay, two more slides. So based on these findings, translation teaching should give more attention to context-sensitive translation strategies. Students need to be trained to identify the register of the source text before translating. They should also be exposed to common target language conventions, especially in written correspondence. In the classroom, teachers can use comparative tasks. For example, students can compare how the same English expression is translated in a personal letter, a business letter, an email, or academic message. This kind of activity can help students understand that one source expression may have several possibility translation depending on the context. And I come to the conclusion. To conclude, this study shows that translating dear into Indonesian is not as simple as it may appear, the students' translation reveal varying levels of awareness of register and context. Some students were able to produce appropriate translation, especially in the formal context. However, other students translated the expression too literally or used the same translation strategy across different contexts. And the study highlight that students' translation difficulties are closely related to pragmatic equivalence, register awareness, and Indonesian writing convention. Therefore, translation teaching should encourage students to move beyond word level equivalence and pay closer attention to context, function, and naturalness in the target language. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your comment or question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Surya, for the presentation. Anggi is giving you an applause. Okay, anyone has a question for Bu Surya, please. You can be on mic or you can type your question in our chat box. Anyone? All right, then I have, I think this is not really a comment, Bu Surya, but it's just my curiosity. If, what do you think if we compare translation from like Dear from English to Indonesian compared to Indonesian to English? How do you think is the characteristic can be different? Like for example, in Indonesia, there like which one is more specific? I mean, when you translate the comparing translation between to the English to Indonesian to, and then Indonesian to English.
Yeah, I think for the English correspondence, they only have one word to open the letter, namely dear. Or yeah. So far, when I write to someone, either this is formal or informal letter, I just use one word, dear blah blah blah, or maybe just giving the title, dear Prof blah blah blah, to show that this is formal letter, or just mention the name to show that this is informal letter. So dear Anna, or this is to my friends. If I write to my lecturer, I will say dear Mrs. or dear Prof Anna. But in Indonesians, as I explained from my presentations just now, we have so many salutations or greetings in Indonesian letter. Kepada yang terhormat, halo, hi. But actually, but the most common one in Indonesian letter, the Indonesian salutation is kepada YTH. That's why some students maybe they have the problem is they have less vocabulary in Indonesian, so they think that dear all the translation for dear is always kepada YTH because they only refer to one salutation in Indonesia that they are familiar with, kepada YTH.
Okay, thank you, Bu Surya. So I think like so Indonesian has more variations than in a way to greet someone.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you. If
Thank
there's no other questions, we are going to move on to our second presenter. This is actually our moderator, supposed to be Ibu Prihatin Puji Astuti. So are you ready? Bu.
Yes, I'm ready, Ibu Dwi. I'm so sorry for the trouble. Okay, it is now my turn. Let me share the PowerPoint. Yo, skip. Please skip.
Okay, because Bu Puji still has this technical problem, so we're going to move on to the third speaker. This is Alia and Ananta. Are you ready? Alia and Ananta.
Yes, Miss.
Okay, please share your slide.
Wait, Miss.
Halo Alia, Ananta. Alia and Ananta.
Sorry, Miss. Their PPT is not
Ready?
on
Okay.
yet.
All right. So I'm going to, I think, move on to the next first, yeah, and then I'm going back to you, going back to Bu Puji and then Alia. So now it's the fourth speaker, that's me. So I'm going to share my PPT, everyone. Okay, can you see it? Yet?
Not yet, Miss. Okay, it's already.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, so yes, good afternoon, everyone. My research entitled A Critical Discourse Analysis of Transitivity, Donald Trump's Projected Winner Speech in 2024 Presidential Election. This was written by me and then my students, Revi and Novia Rahma. So this research background is based on the concept or the understanding that language shapes power, ideology, and social relations. Based on CDA concept that reveals hidden power structures in discourse, we combine CDA with transitivity in systemic functional linguistic or SFL, analyzes how experiences are represented on discourse. This study focuses on Donald Trump's projected winner speech in 2024 election. We have two research questions. First one is how are transitivity processes used? And the second one is how do they reveal political power and ideology? So we again, combine the theory from Fairclough CDA that examines the discourse and power with Halliday and Matheson in 2014 six transitivity processes: material, mental, relational, verbal, behavioral, and existential. And because when we look out to the literature review or the previous studies, that CDA mostly focus on gender, media, and politics. So there was a gap between this limited integration of CDA and transitivity analysis in political speeches. That's why we decided to combine CDA with transitivity. Yeah, so this study is the combination of CDA plus SFL transitivity analysis. This is a qualitative descriptive research design. Data source was from Trump's projected winner taken from YouTube. And this is the procedure of data collection. So first we transcribe the speech verbatim, so word by word. And then we kind of categorize or cleaning irrelevant elements so that we can categorize the clauses into 6 sensitivity processes that becomes our objective. And then the last one, we interpreted the findings using Fairclough CDA model, text, discursive practice, and social practice. So our findings directly show that from all 6 processes, the highest number was from the material process. And the second highest finding is relational process. The third one is mental process. The fourth is verbal process with 15%. Next is existential process with 1%. And the last is 0%. There was no behavioral process. So from here we can assume that we can say that dominant material processes highlight the action and leadership because it's material processes that, of course, they need like real tangible activities, right? So that's why we call it. It highlight actions and leadership that Trump wanted to show. And then the second finding, there was the relational with 26%. It shows that Trump tried to construct identity and legitimacy through the sentences that he used in 26% of the overall speech. And the last one is mental processes. That is 19%. That we can assume that he tried to build emotional connection and shared perception with his supporters, because with mental processes, he used many of the adjectives and then words that or vocabulary that relates about feelings, so that he tried to build connection and especially emotional connection with the followers. As you can see, there is very small number of existential process. It shows that it's not important for him to show his existence, because I think he believed that he already famous enough. And then there is no behavioral processes. That means so behavioral is the action of combination of mental and action. So as you can see in here, there is no at all evidence of the use of this type of process in his speech. So in the end, this is the last one about the finding. So we can also see that his speech strategically construct himself. He wanted to be seen as the agent of change. And the second one is that he repeated the use of we, the word we, many times. That created collective identity and solidarity by using not I, not they, but using we, not you. And the third is that distribution through TV. So there, because we're talking about social practice, so we're talking about the channel, because he did this speech through TV and YouTube, so it increases persuasive impact and audience that positioned as co-experiences of political reality. So this is not just like connection between a leader and the follower, but Trump tried to position his experience in politics as a shared experience with his followers. And the last one is that ideology emphasizes power, unity, and national strength and legitimacy. And from here, we can conclude that by the use of the material processes dominated by the material process, emphasize action and achievements, and there is relational and mental processes that reinforce identity and emotional connection, very minimal or zero existence of behavioral and existential processes. And then Trump's speech constructs leadership, authority, and ideological persuasion. And the last one is that CDA and sensitivity analysis reveal how political language shapes public perceptions. That's what he intended to do with his speech. And so that's all the findings, and then these are the main references that we use. And that's all from me. I welcome if there is comment or questions from anyone. So Bu Puji, can you take over? I cannot be the moderator of myself. So Bapak Ibu or Bu Puji, do you have maybe some comments for me? Okay. If not, I think it's enough. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm giving it back to Bu Puji.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Bu Dwi, for your presentation and then for your materials that you presented to us, and it is very interesting. Now, it is my turn to present my research. Let me share the PowerPoint. Okay. I will present my research. My research title: A Semantic Prosody of English Words in Digital Media. Then I will start with the introduction. Semantic prosody refers to the consistent tendency of a word or phrase to co-occur with other words carrying semantic or emotional association, giving the word itself a distinct positive, negative, or neutral tone, or it is called as a meaning aura. Okay. This implied meaning is not always found in dictionary definitions, but emerge for real usage patterns. Then why it is important to do research for this topic? Yeah, because it is to we can reveal the implied meaning, shows user stance and ideology, identify language characteristic, and also improve communication accuracy. The objectives of my research is to identify types of semantic prosody, which are positive, negative, and neutral tendencies in digital media, and also analyze how collocation and context influence the meaning of selected words. I use the theory in conducting this research. I used the theory of John Sinclair, 1991, in his based on his work corpus, concordance, and collocation. Sinclair proposed the idea that words do not occur randomly. They have strong tendency to co-occur with specific other words or patterns. It is called as collocation. He mentioned that when a word repeated appears alongside words sharing similar semantic characteristic, it gradually observes that share meaning or emotional tones. Okay, for example, the word cause literally means to make something happen. But however, because it is frequently collocates with other words like accident, damage, problem, and disease, then it develops a negative semantic prosody for the words cause. Okay, then this is the method I apply descriptive qualitative approach, and I use the data from online news article published by BBC. The first is climate change. Global sea level rise could be bigger than expected, published in 2019. And then the second is how climate change worsen the heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and floods. And then the third is what way of target in tackling climate change, United Nations. And the result is, this is the finding of my research that I found 8 words that are collocated with certain words, and then it creates types of prosody like neutral to negative, and then negative, and then strong negative to strong negative. Like this is the examples of the analysis, like even a small increase in an average temperature make a big difference to heat extreme. Here the word increase is lexically natural. It is simply refers to rise or growth in temperature. But however, when this word is collocated with other words linked to heat extreme or harmful environmental condition, heat waves, and climate related risks, it demonstrates negative semantic prosody. Okay, and then this is the conclusion that this research or the finding reveals that the most of the analysis words tend to exhibit negative semantic prosody. The words such as increase, rise, level, change, which are lexically natural, show a shift toward negative meanings due to their frequent association with environmental issues such as climate change, rising temperature, and environmental degradation. Meanwhile, words such as risk, impact, threat, and extreme consistently demonstrate strongly negative prosody. They are closely related to danger, uncertainty, and harmful condition. Therefore, frequency of occurrence support the dominance of negative semantic prosody. And this is the reference of this, for my research, and I think then it's enough for this presentation, for my presentation. Thank you very much. Okay. Any question or okay, any question or comment for this research? Well, if there is no question and also no comment from for my research, then now let's move to the next presenter. The third presenter is Alia Maulana Putri Ananta Fahma Maulidia from Universitas Pamulang with the paper titled Transitivity Analysis of Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking, Exploring Processes of Asking, Giving, and Receiving. For Aulia or Amanda, time is yours.
Thank you, Miss. Let us share our material. Yep. So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good.
First of all, thank you for joining this room. Before we start, let me introduce ourselves first.
Hello, Ananta.
Yes, Miss. My name is Ananta Fahma Sri Muludya, and my partner is Alia Maulana Putri. And our lecturer, Miss Dwi Rahayu. We conduct a study entitled Transitivity Analysis of Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking, Exploring Processes of Asking, Giving, and Receiving. So this is our overview. There is introduction, literary review, methodology, finding. Next is analysis, conclusion, and the last one is references. So we move to the introduction. Language is very important because people use language to express experience, feelings, ideas, and social relationships. In the digital era, spoken discourse appears in many forms, such as podcasts, interview, and TED Talks. Among those forms, TED Talks are interesting because they combine storytelling, reflection, and social issues in persuasive and emotional way. Amanda Palmer's TED Talk, The Art of Asking, talks about how asking for help is not a weakness, but form of trust and human connection. This research is guided by two questions. The first one is what type of transitivity processes are used in the art of asking? Second is how does transitivity contribute to the discourse of trust and connection in the speech? So the next slide will be presented by my partner, Alia, please.
Okay, now I will continue with the literature review. This study uses Holiday and Matheson's systematic functional linguistics, or SFL theory, especially the ideational metafunction and transitivity system. In this theory, language is seen as a tool to represent human experience through different process types. And there are 6 process types in transitivity analysis, which are material, mental, relational, verbal, behavioral, and existential processes. Several previous studies also use transitivity analysis in political speeches and public discourse. For example, Fadilah and Kuswoyo found that material processes dominated political debates, while Saputra and colleagues explained how transitivity represents social meaning and experience. However, most previous studies focus on formal discourse, so this research tries to explore a more personal and emotional discourse through TED Talks. And next, I will explain the methodology of this research. This study uses a qualitative descriptive method because the research focuses on interpreting meaning rather than statistical measurement. The data source is Amanda Palmer's TED Talk, The Art of Asking, which has a duration of around 13 minutes, and the data were taken from the official TED transcripts. The researchers analyzed 312 finite clauses, and each clause was identified based on its process type, participants, and circumstances using Holiday and Matheson's transitivity framework. And now, moving to the findings. The analysis shows that all 6 transitivity process types were found in the TED Talk. Material processes appeared the most with 118 occurrences, followed by mental processes with 96 occurrences, and relational processes with 54 occurrences. And on the other hand, verbal, behavioral, and existential processes appear less frequently. These findings indicate that the speech mainly focuses on actions, experience, emotions, and reflections through the discourse. So, based on the findings, material processes appear the most because Amanda Palmer frequently talks about actions, performance, and interactions with people. And mental processes are also dominant because the TED talk is highly personal and reflective. And also, relational processes are used to redefine asking and receiving, such as in the clause, it was about the art of receiving, which construct asking as a human connection rather than economic transaction. And last, existential processes appear the least because the speech focuses more on action and emotion rather than existence itself.
Okay, for the next, the phenomenon of material and mental process show that the speech combine both action and emotion. Amanda Palmer not only share with she does, but also what she feels and believes. Overall, asking is supposed as trust, vulnerability, and human connections. So, in conclusion, this study analyzed Amanda Palmer's TED talk using transitive analysis. The result showed that all six transitive processes appear in the discourse. Material and mental process is the most dominant. Overall, the study showed that transitive analysis helped explain how trust, vulnerability, and human connection are linguistically constructed in digital spoken discourse such as TED talk. And to gain a broader understanding of transitivity in digital discourse, future studies may analyze podcasts, interview, blogs, or compare different TED talks using SFL analysis. So here are the
And
references.
yes, and lastly, these are the references used in this research. The main theory comes from Holiday and Mathison's systematic functional linguistic framework, especially transitivity analysis. And we also use several previous studies related to transitivity in political speeches and public discourse. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention. We hope this presentation provides useful insight into how language contracts meaning and social relationship in spoken discourse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Aulia and Ananta for the presentation about transitivity analysis of Amanda Partners, the art of asking, exploring process of asking, giving, and receiving. Okay, good. For the other participants, is there any question for this topic? Well, if there is no questions, and now let's move to the next presenter. Next presentation will be Siti Safinatul Asiyah from Universitas Al-Azhar Indonesia. The title is The Off-Record Politeness Strategy in the Conversation of the Main Characters in the Film Insidious, The Red Dot. Okay, Siti Safinatul, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, now time is yours. Siti, I still cannot hear your voice.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Today I want to present my paper. The language is politeness played a crucial role in human communication, especially in maintaining social harmony and protecting the face of self-image about speakers and listeners. In the pragmatics theory, Brown and Levison, politeness theory provide to conversive framework for understanding how the speaker navigated face the threatening acts. True for the main strategies, but on record, positive, negative politeness, and of records. Among that, the record strategy, it's unique because it allows speakers to convey the message indirectly through hits, ambiguous metaphor, or schisms. In enable the listener to infer the intended the meaning without the speaker talking directly responsibility for the message. The supernatural horror film introduced The Red Doors directly by Patrick Wilson offers the rich textual ground for analyzing politeness strategies. Particularly the of the records approach as the 50th installment in the Insidious franchise and direct sequel to Insidious.
Yep. Iya, ini aku tulis kok. Hello Siti, we cannot hear your voice. Seribu.
The in the literature review, kajian pustakanya itu ada sesudah kajian yang sudah di research di film KNN Desa Penari. sesuai dengan teori Brown and lessons of the records. Because the record strategies, the here in France, and the moments when the main character used in the rec from sense premiums, implied suggestion or theoretical question to strategies in traditional interaction implies that the strategy it's not only linguistic but also cultural, non-verbal cues and shared knowledge and village sound strange and implicator so that it's matched in the convey without evolving local social norms. And I use this study with directive qualitative methods. This method is chosen because the research aims to describe the interest of the main character in Insidious. The record does that the content of the record.
Hello, Sophie. Siti Sabinato.
And the findings is these dialogues. It's these dialogues and the most deployment from in the fight the data is the use the theoretical questions, especially the by character call. These authors do not function a genius request for information, be rather the expression for confusions, anxiety or disbelief, because in the several intense course question is internal struggle to comprehend the reference, the supernatural events he encounters from a pragmatic perspective. This involves the violence of the maximum of the relevance of the quality. As the integral meaning of the questions does not align with the intended function, instead, the audience is required to interpret the implied meaning, which often points to deeper psychological distress and the sense disinterpretation. Other dominant feature is the use of the vague and ambiguous statement, particularly adult dialogues. His reluctance to speak directly about the past suggests attempt to suppress and avoid confronting traumatic memories. These authors typically violate the maxim manner as the lack the clarity and precision. However, the lack the clarity if possessful, this allows the speaker to communicate something without fully committing to its explicit collection. In this way, Fagus become a strategic tool that embeds emotional distancing while still maintaining a communicate link with other characters. In analyzing is This show the
Okay,
understatement,
2 minutes more.
frequently
2 minutes more. 2 minutes more.
use the inclusion is this research contributes to field practice by demonstrating by how the records horror family film context an area that has received limited scholarly in attention. It showed the indirectly to explore the use
Okay,
politeness
Siti,
strategy in
1 minute more. Hello, Siti. You just have 1 minute. 1 minute more.
or to compare to records across the genres, the other again a broader understanding of parametrics, very, 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 variation in the semantic research.
Okay, thank you, Siti. Yeah, I think time is enough. Time is up. Okay. Now, we will have one presenter. Thank you for your presentation, Siti. And now we move to the next presenter, Pak Ms. Akbar Kurtubi, Amrats, SPDI, FDD from Universitas Pamulang. And the title is A Semantic Analysis of Sign on Idol Music Video by BTS. Okay, Akbar, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Puji. Okay, a semiotic analysis of signs on idol music video by BTS. The first writer is Aridi Mawarahma Tube, and the last is me, Muhammad Akbar Kutubi Amraj. For the introduction, the music video Idol is one of the most famous BTS because the Korean music is so popular. Seems like BTS and then Blackpink, and then this section is Baby Monster. Okay. Most famous BTS comeback music videos. The song in this music video is the mainstay of album Love Yourself. This album is a repackaged album. Music video has released on August 24, 2018, and the length of duration of uh, album was 3 minutes point 51 on the Hype Labels YouTube channel. Okay, because so many signs, so many character in the video, so that we choose the BTS. Okay, the first statements for the problem. What are the sign elements and symbols found in the BTS idol music video? And then the second, what are the message of sign and symbols implied in the BTS idol music video? And then the third, what are the myths contained of sign and symbol in the BTS idol music video? As the result, this study is conducted to identity the elements of sign and symbols displayed in the BTS idol music video. And then the second, to analyze the message of the sign and symbols contained in the BTS idol music video. And the third, to identify the myths contained of sign and symbol in the BTS idol music video. And then for the literature review, the first is semiotic. The beginning of modern semiotic was by a popular figure, Ferdinand de Sousa, or often called the father of modern linguistics. According to Sosa, semiotic is based on the assumption that as long as human action and behaviors carry the same meaning on function as signs, behind them there must be a system of distinctions and convention that makes them this meaning becomes possible. Okay, beside that, there is Charles Sanders Peirce. According Peirce, semiotic is based on logic because logic studies how people reason through science. And then for the Barthes theory of semiotics, we have known as a structuralist thinker interested in the practice of social models of language and semiotic. He was a French intellectual and literary critic who applied structuralism and semiotic to the study of literature. Barthes developed semiotic dealing with the meaning of sign using two states of meaning. The first is denotative and connotation. And denotation is sometimes called a conceptual meaning or cognitive meaning. According to Sobur, denotation is called cognitive meaning because relate to a knowledge, stimulus, and response. According to Barthes, denotation is most tangible meaning in sign. And then for the connotation is the word used to describe an interaction when the feeling with the emotion of the user's value connects with the sign in the culture. And simply, connotation is the word used to imply an association, the other than a literal meaning. And then for the myth, the word myth comes from the Greek, which means speech words. Myth is how culture explain or understand some aspect or reality or natural phenomena. Myths serve as a genuine narrative theories about the world. Myth is product of social class that already has one dominance. And then the sign is something that represents something other than the things itself, like metaphor. And then the symbol comes from the word symbols or from Greek, means a sign that describes something to someone. The symbol is a sign that represents something is based on agreements, either internationally or unintentionally, sorry. For example, Gedung Sate represent Bandung. And then the methodology approach of the study is an important aspect in a study where the study is a way to get data with a specific purpose. Based on the type of the data, this study uses a qualitative approach. And data source in this study is primarily data on what became the material to be analyzed in this study is BTS Idol for music video. And then data collection. For collecting the data, the writer took several steps. First, the writer download and watch the entire music video carefully and repeatedly to find out the sign and symbol in the music video. And the second, the writer screen capture every scene and group them based on of context and storyline. The third, the writer made a list of the scenes that have screen capture in microscope word. Fourth, the writer also took lyrics of each scene. The last, the writer analyzed the sign and symbol that Efon used Roland Barthes theory. And data analyze use a creative descriptive method because the writer considers explanation and description when analyzing the data. According to Mulong, qualitative data analysis is try to employ with the data. And then for the finding, the chapter contain the data found in BTS. Ah, okay. Yeah, we have BTS music video. We have the symbol. So many datum in here. Okay, wait. Yeah, based on the datum on the table, the writer found 31 data in one video from BTS. Okay, thank you so much, Bu Puji.
Okay, well, thank you very much for Akbar for the presentation. And
Yeah, you're
and
welcome.
now, I think it's enough. Or any question from the audience? Any question or opinion? Okay, if there is no question, then it is time for closing. And well, this distinguished presenters and audience, we have now come to the end of our presentation. To summarize, today we have discussed various interesting topics covering linguistic theory, literary studies, and also the practical application of language in the real context. I believe all the papers and discussion we have had today have provided new insights, perspectives, and valuable knowledge for all of us. On behalf of the committee, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all the presenters for all your excellent presentation and to all your and to all participants. Thank you very much for your cooperation, and I declare that the parallel session closed. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay.
Okay, dear everyone,
Everybody can
please,
move to
please
the
return to the
main
main room.
main
Yeah,
room.
go back to the main room.